Okay, hi. Hello. How's it going? Welcome back. It may appear that I'm outside. Turns out I am. Can you hear that bird? It's not AI. This is real. Real tree. You know, I came out here because the dog was barking inside, but out here it seems we have another part of nature. But, we're just going to press on. Welcome back to the show. This is the 8th episode of Comebacks, the series that I started a mere few months ago. And I've recorded a bunch of them, as I've been telling you, about 6-9 months ago. And I hadn't really started recording new ones of this series, but I have now. I recorded with today's guest, Elizabeth Schild Kott, a mere yesterday. Just a mere few hours ago, if you will. And I'm so stoked for you to hear this conversation. It was great to get to talk to her and reconnect with her. You might know her as the host of the podcast Too Niche, or maybe from some of her many, many other internet lives. She has nearly 2 decades of experience over fashion and media. Rachel Zoe hired her when she was 24 to create and run the Zoe Report, and in 2011 she founded Closet Rich, one of the early online destinations for sustainable fashion. So ahead of her time. And then you may know her how I ended up connecting with her from her podcast called That's So Retrograde, a wellness and culture show that she co-hosted for 7 years. And in this conversation, we get into how she started the projects that she's doing now and let go of what she was doing before. And if you haven't listened to Too Niche, it's world class. It's a podcast for niche conversations, product recommendations, and deep dives into anything worth obsessing over. Elizabeth and I have known each other for years, and I've always been so fascinated how she's really ahead of the curve and knows what's coming next in terms of what to recommend, which is why her show is so perfect. And she's also someone that I've seen reinvent herself so elegantly and successfully throughout her career. Her comeback, which you'll hear, is really about stopping and starting and getting quiet enough to hear your intuition about what the next step for you to take actually is. We talked about that, as well as the changing internet, creativity, the artist's way, jealousy as a roadmap, and how every past version of yourself can be useful in whatever you end up doing next. We also got into privacy making a comeback, possibly MySpace making a comeback, and why sometimes the thing that gets you through a transition is not another self-help book or spiritual practice. It's figuring out what makes you feel like yourself again. This was such a fun conversation for me, and I hope it is for you to listen to. So here is my conversation with Elizabeth. One more quick thing before we start. I'm working on something new and I'm looking for someone to help me. So if you are extremely organized, good at managing logistics of projects, and want to be on the ground floor of something fun that I'm really excited about, and you'd like to work with me, email me, katie@letitoutwith3ts.com, or if you know somebody who might want to pass this along. Okay, here's the episode. Yeah, I think I was thinking about this. I think the last time I saw you was in 2020 when I came over to your house and we went on a walk and we got coffee. And I'm pretty sure we talked about, because, for people listening, this is our I don't even know how many interviews we've done, but you came on my podcast and I came on your podcast. You were so kind to have me when my book came out, and that was like so meaningful. And then I did a workshop where I used to help people start podcasts, and you were so kind to be an affiliate for that and be interviewed for that. And it truly meant so much to me. And then, I think soon after that was the pandemic, and you were telling me at that point that you were at like a real crossroads in your work and life. And I remember you telling me that you were doing the artist's way. Does that line up?
Yeah, that timeline is very accurate.
Yeah. And I just remember thinking like, I remember you giving me a lot of really good advice, but I don't, I think I like didn't take it properly because I think you were like, stop and restart. And now I'm finally doing that. And I think it's so inspiring that you sort of did that at that time. And truly, you inspire me in a myriad of ways, like your style and your ability to kind of see the future and trends. And I've been such a fan of every iteration of your work. And it's honestly been like a guiding light for me to see like, this is a way you can change. This is a way you can evolve. And what I really see from you is someone who's constantly getting better at being themselves and being more of yourself, being more your authentic self and expressing that. And then now you're helping other people do that in your work with the Artist Way, Club Artist Way. And anyway, I guess, so I've been starting this series with this question, as you know, about comebacks and how we define them. And so it might be around that time where I came over, but maybe it's not. You can tell me. But what is a time that you stopped and restarted, or you changed course in your work or your life or relationship or a version of yourself, whether you were forced to or whether you wanted to? That's where we've been kicking off these conversations. So what's your comeback that you're bringing us today?
Well, first of all, I have to say thank you for such complimentary words. That's so nice. And that's a really thank you. I think really when you first posed this question to me, the first thing came to mind to track it back to what you said. So I finally did the Artist Way for the first time, completed it in 2020. So the book is written by Julia Cameron, and it's just a beautiful 12-week process of recovering through creativity, reconnecting with your creativity, healing whatever needs to be healed through the lens of creativity. And like so many people, I had started it and never completed it 3 or 4 times before this point. And the book was like yelling at me from its shelf when I was sitting in my apartment, And so I was like, okay, this has to happen. And funnily enough, an acquaintance of mine had reached out and was like, I'm going to start an Artist Way group. Like, would you like to join? And I just felt that like, there's been a few instances in my life where I get this like gut punch of like, it's so scary, but it's so necessary. And there's no way I can not walk through this door. And that was one of those times. And so beautifully enough, I was able to finally complete these 12 weeks with this group of people. Then did it with another group where I was a member. And then I just thought to myself, I want to put my own group together. And it started with friends, and then another group happened, and it was friends, and then friends of friends, and then another one, and then it was like friends of friends of friends. And then and all this time, career-wise, I had closed out a long run of a 7-year show that I had been on, much to the support of the work I was doing in the Artist Way. Like, it really just instilled confidence and set a new bar for what I wanted for my life. So that book held my hand through a big transitional time. And, other great things, like I always share this, but like I got a dog. I never grew up with animals, but like something started coming up through the process in my morning pages and just sort of like where my interests were going, where I was like, I want a dog, which was revelatory for my life. And so all this beauty was being cultivated. These shifts were being supported through this work, and it was coming towards me as if, it was like this effortless sort of path was opening up. And so then I started a new podcast with a friend that was just like purely came from doing the Artist Way and just like following, silliness and delight. And so it started that, and then it like was supposed to be a limited thing. It just became an ongoing thing. And then I did an episode of this show, which is called Too Niche, and it's all about like niche delights and things that it's the tagline is everything is a thrill and nothing is too niche. So it's actually a nicheless show because it's just so much random shit. So I did an episode about my experience with the Artist Way. And then I got all these messages of people being like, hey, if you ever decide to like open this up to other people, I'd be interested. So then Club Artist Way was born.
And so that was a real shift in your career. And it sounds like it happened very organically and slowly, but you mentioned it a little bit. And of course, I know, but would you walk us through a little bit of what your life looked like right before everything shifted? And were you aware at that time that something was kind of needing to shift?
I was in a good place professionally. Like I definitely hit the peak at the time of like where I was really hitting these goals that I had set for myself years before. So I was really in this place that was really positive on one side of things. It was COVID though. So like, what, to be honest, blocked most of it out. But I was feeling very settled in the fact that I had reached these goals and like very proud of that and just like in a good zone with that, but also struggling with some dynamics in my life, professionally, personally. And funnily enough, I'll never forget this because there was something so interesting about the timing because I was working with the Handel group. They were as a life coaching and they're great. Like their method is great, but I had been working with them for a long time. And I just got to the point where like it was like just became clear to me. I was like, I'm ready to sort of graduate from this offering. And the day that I stopped is the day I got the email from the artist about the Artist Way group. And I was like, okay, like I know when I know. Like
Totally.
This is meant to be now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the 2020 of it all, I can't speak to more of it because we all know we're not trying to go back to that mentally, but it was like, it was a real yin and yang, I'll say.
I had the two people from the Lauren and someone else from the Handel group on. I probably found out about them at all through you like years and years ago, but I feel like I remember you telling me that you were doing that and that you stopped and that you were going to do the Artist Way. It's so interesting. I feel like for me, and me, I'm just curious, and this is just, this could be a dead end, but I feel like COVID was kind of a before and after for myself. I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. I moved during that time, so I think it really made it a bookend, even though my work hadn't really changed much. But do you ever think about like how COVID happening impacted a pivot in things with you, or would it have prolonged something that you could have been on this track? You would have maybe ended up here eventually, but it maybe expedited it, or do you ever think about that?
I don't, because I feel like I'm just a firm believer that we're going to end up where things are always going to end up the way they're going to end up, whether COVID delayed it or sped it up. I don't know. I mean, I think on a macro level, there's a lot to assess in that. But just I think on a micro level, I believe I would be, and like I'd be right here regardless.
Yeah, like sliding doors, like the
totally. I'm Gwyneth.
Yeah. I find that's very comforting, like that as a thought and idea. And I guess even in just like our differences with framing that or like thinking back, you seem like you're someone who embraces change quite well. Do you get nostalgic or do you have any grief with letting go of past versions of yourself? Have you always been, am I perceiving that right too? That you're pretty good with change and evolving yourself?
I've had people clock that in me before, and I don't know if I perceive that myself, but I'm kind of like, wherever you are, there you are. And sometimes it can be, we can get stuck in a loop, thinking about the past. I'm certainly not immune to that. That happens. But I kind of I'm such a one foot in front of the other person.
Yes.
And the process of the artist way has just solidified that in me so much. It's
Cool.
one of the reasons why I have moved into guiding people through it, because it has only been additive to my life and my process and my confidence. And it's something that anybody can harness, I've learned. So really it's about, I think, being in a place where you're comfortable where you are and knowing what to do with what's in front of you.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. I think that it's the way you were just describing that. I relate to that one foot in front of the other mentality when I was younger, but I feel like it's something that I actually, honestly, probably in the last 6 years since the pandemic, that I don't want to say I've lost, but it's definitely become more fuzzy. And I'm just now kind of getting back into that as a default. And I wonder what it is about the artist's way specifically that helps you solidify that. And I'm guessing it's probably the self-trust involved in keeping the commitment of the artist dates or morning pages. Am I guessing that correctly, or is there something else from that process that has helped you solidify the one foot in front of the other?
Well, I think the basic tools that you mentioned, so the artist dates, which is a weekly, just doing something that delights you on a weekly basis, following your interests and committing to yourself. It's a big one, right? And then showing up for yourself on a daily basis with the morning pages and writing. That certainly builds a level of confidence and interest, and
Yeah.
pattern recognition, what's coming up, and those little tools, when we work with them, I find that then it's hard to stay in one place when you're you know what, I'm going to treat myself to a movie genre that I've never seen before, and I'm going to go see that movie. Or, I'm noticing this pattern coming up in my writing a lot. This is something I need to dig deeper on. That certainly helps us keep in motion. There's a line in the book that I love so much, and Julia writes that creativity isn't about picking something up, it's about putting something down. So the way I interpret that is it's in the doing. It's in the, I don't need, I have everything I need, actually. I just need to put it down, right? I need to place it somewhere. I need to pick up the pen. I need to get on the mic. The practices of showing up for myself in that way helps me stay in motion. That doesn't mean I don't have days where I'm feeling stuck and paralyzed and not sure what the next considered action should be, but or need an extra moment to be okay, where's my head at? What am I doing? How can I stay on this path? But for the most part, those ways of thinking and those activities keep it moving.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God, that was so good. I didn't remember that line, but it's really helping me think through this of it is about what you let go, what you set down. And I was doing the artist way when I came up with the idea for my book, which is about journaling. And I was so influenced and it changed my whole life. It's obviously time for me to do it again. And I've done it a couple times since, but I totally forgot about that line. And now I'm realizing, so the publisher changed the name of this book that I wrote, which is called Let It Out. And it was called, it was good that they changed it, but the answers are within you. You just have to let it out. And that was the subtitle basically. And it was kind of, I don't know, I'm like, I probably got that from that Julia Cameron line, like, because that's what I was reading at the time. But it's so true that it's like, you can't bring more things into your house until you do some decluttering. And it's true in every area. I mean, and maybe we sort of touched on this already, but do you ever have a grief in that process of letting go, and how do you process it? Like, was there a moment in evolving into this next version of your work and life where you realized that the old version of yourself wasn't coming back and you were starting over in a way after having built something else? Did you feel a sense of loss, or was it only inspiring?
I think all the versions of myself are still with me. Like the girl working the door at the celebrity gifting suites when she first came to LA, walking talent around events, working for Rachel Zoe, conceptualizing her newsletter, like getting fired from that and that being like such a heartbreak at 26 years old, and like thinking my career's over, to going to work at an agency at CAA, which was like my nightmare, starting Closet Rich, which was my online consignment business, then styling YouTube talent that then weirdly led me to the opportunity to start That's So Retrograde, that then, That's So Retrograde, like hitting all my goals, and getting to really like bring that into like its full potential, to like letting that go. And like, of course that was hard. But like all of that is still with me. It's like each thing was like a different plateau of a mountain, that it's just like I work with this soul reader woman and she calls it our soul mountain that we're on top of. And like all of those things are, with me as I keep moving up my own, like everyone has a soul mountain, right? So like that's just mine. And like I carry all of that with me. Like it's all there. It's helped me continue to become who I'm becoming. Like, I think we're obviously all constantly evolving, but I think I'm in a place now, like of course there's been grief, and of course there's, even I've been in Los Angeles for 20 years. It's so different now than it used to be, like I grieve like the lightness that used to be here that I feel like has been lost a bit, or just like I'm 41. I moved here when I was 21. It's just a different, like just I'm in a different phase in life. So, but they're all those versions are here.
Yeah.
So I don't feel sad about it. I feel like I'm like, oh, there's been some cool moments, and like I'm proud.
Yeah. The Soul Mountain is such a great like compliment to what I'm trying to do here of comebacks. This is for myself to inspire change. And I think collectively, this is something that many of us are feeling, whether it be age or the evolution of the internet. But, thinking about this as a collective comeback, or just constantly we are going through transitions, and if we're not, we're stagnant, and that's no good either. And I think, to your point of the artist way, and I think morning pages and writing and journaling in general is self-awareness. And that's why it can be very unappealing to people. Sometimes it's very unappealing to me, of like, I think I know, but I don't really want to address it right now. So I'm going to put it to the side. But when you have the mirror up to your face, you have to either make a choice. Either you deal with it and change, or you have to feel the discomfort of not changing. And I've observed a lot of people feeling like they need a comeback, or they're in the midst of a transition, and how the internet that we both kind of came up on has evolved and seems to be evolving so quickly and is maybe dead. And as someone who, like I said at the top, is something of a futurist and always ahead of what's next, can you talk about what you see with the death of the internet, or how the internet changing has impacted your career choices?
Well, what I have to say first is I had a dream last night where my mom asked me this exact same question.
What?
And I'm
Crazy.
loving this right now because I'm like, well, I had a really profound answer in the dream. I don't know if I can
Give us
quite
your dream
capture,
answer.
in Romeo and Michelle, when she's like, and I knew the formula for glue. Like, literally,
Yeah.
that's me in
Give
that
it to
dream.
us.
But I don't think I can tackle it quite as well. My current read on, I'll say social media, because I think the internet, AI, like all of that is there's so much. First, I'll say with AI, I think there is just in like the looking up information part of AI, I find that it makes a lot of sense to me that like it's just the natural progression from like search terms into like us getting like a more crystallized, personalized answer to what we're looking for. So I've been thinking about that a lot when I'm just like searching, looking for some sort of answer in a search term. So there's that. And then with social media, I think what's interesting is how the idea of like personal brand and messaging and all of us having these tools at our fingertips, if we want to go that route, it's never been easier. But I think what's interesting is how that like connection with people in our lives have changed. Like that's used to be like what, Facebook was in like the first few versions of Instagram. It was like fun to connect with people and stay connected, but it's not that anymore. It actually doesn't feel fun. It feels arduous. It feels a little dark. Like we're not having that fun. I've been hearing rumblings that MySpace is going to come back. Have you heard about this?
I have, yeah.
And I could see that being fun for our generation again. Yeah. So I've got a little bit of eyes on like, where are we going to find that like fun online connection? Like, here's the song I'm listening to. Here's, what I'm up to, where it doesn't feel so like pushing your affiliate links energy.
Totally.
I also think that like with the evolution of ShopMy, I think it's sort of like flatlined. It's like playing a heavy hand in flatlining the influencer culture because it's democratized that in such a way that is both great for, some people, but also made it really lame for those of us who have, spent many years working with brands on the internet. So that is interesting too. I've been really paying attention to sort of like how the ShopMy of it all has, which for those who are listening who don't know, it's an affiliate platform that sort of has solved, every issue and roadblock with the affiliate. So I mentioned I worked with Rachel Zoe. So when I was running her newsletter, I would do back end coding for affiliate links, like literal. It was tech. It was not cute. It was like, it was Women in STEM version 1.0. And so I've been, really engrossed in that whole affiliate link land for a very long time. So that's very interesting to me. But I think that like, the best investment I've made is my brick. So I just unbricked. I'd been bricked up since Wednesday. It's Monday. So my relationship to social media is, I'm very happy to report that it is shifted massively.
Yeah, same. Yeah. I mean, this is like such a delight to be able to talk to you about this because I think we've experienced so many of the same things and I'm just kind of realizing so many things as you were talking. But one of them about the affiliate links or, in both of our cases, working with brands for sponsorship for our podcast, it at that time, I think for both of us, we were early to it. And I, would always say it was like the Wild West of podcasting where brands seemed to just be sort of like throwing money at it to try it. And the tracking wasn't that evolved even yet. And it was such a cool time. And I'm so grateful that I got to experience it. And I think for me, this is not a becoming quality of myself, but I think I felt like, oh my God, like I I thought it was just going to kind of continue like that. I didn't really think through that could all go away in a second. And not that it did exactly in a second, but it did.
But she's gone.
It's gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally not here.
Yeah. She is no longer with us.
Yeah. And it did feel quite abrupt, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was banking on it, but
just made my whole salary off of it. Now, yeah. But that's okay.
No worries. It's fine.
We evolve, we keep moving.
Right. Exactly. But yeah, there was some like grief there. And it sounds like entitlement, I guess, of like, not that I'm owed anything of being early, but I think I had some like sunk cost fallacy in that. I had some, I was like, all right, well, what do I do next? What can I do next? What will work next? I just fell into that. I had a full-time job and I just started doing this thing. And I also had some ego, like shame. And this is interesting to not really about the sponsors. That was like an ego boost of like, oh my God, there's enough listeners of it. Like that felt cool. But anything with affiliate links at that time before 2020, I felt a little bit embarrassed, like with my friends. I felt like it was this weird thing, even though I was very versed in them. Like I mentioned, you were an affiliate for my podcasting course. And that another thing, online courses. I felt so embarrassed to have an online course that I like didn't want the dudes I had crushes on to see that I was like an internet marketer. And now I'm just kind of like, well, I guess that thing I was so ashamed of is like cool now, and it's like post cool maybe
it's
now.
We're in like post mortem of that's just like that's what the internet is now.
It's over, right.
What are you selling?
Yeah, and maybe it's good. I'll just wait out for the whatever's next because I just kind of stopped doing it and stopped. But when I was really just preparing for this, and I do listen to your work and I keep in touch with it, but I don't do an immersive day like I did today, which I had an excuse to do because we were recording this. And Too Niche lends itself to this so well. And you yourself, because of your eye on, being able to see so broadly and just have incredible taste, and you're so good at recommendations that it lends itself to sharing links very authentically. And I want everything you recommend. But that to me is like what blogging was when we started. That part of it is so fun, getting so into something and wanting to share it in a teaches to learn sort of a way is really genuine and really fun. And yeah, I guess I'm not really saying anything here, but speaking of the Tumblr, or not Tumblr, but I bet Tumblr is probably not far behind if MySpace is coming.
I would tumble right these days.
Same.
Give it to me.
I loved, I still go on Tumblr. I have 3 Tumblrs that like I still go on like often.
I love that. I had a Tumblr for my online consignment business called Closet Rich and remember this was like a micro trend called, it was like fuck yeah Closet Rich. Do you remember there was like a fan site would be like fuck yeah Let It Out podcast, right? Like that would be. And I was obsessed. I thought that was the funniest thing. So I made a fan account on Tumblr for my online consignment business.
It's like Cher sending herself flowers and Clueless.
Exactly.
Genius.
I loved it. So Closet Rich, let's bring it back. Why not?
Yeah. Well, I think that's when it is genuine and it's so fun. Like there's nothing more fun to me than sharing a link to something that I'm so into or an idea of like actually I wrote this down in my notes. You mentioned on this other podcast that I was listening to the book, which is also very formative for me, The Habits of Highly Effective People.
Love.
And I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something like you should read everything as if you're about to give a presentation on it, which I really relate to and kind of feel like that was what blogging was. I just got into the mode of like, if something is really, if this quote hits, I want to like put it on Instagram. If this, that was sort of what we were doing. And it was kind of wellness related for both of us at one time. And then it broadened out of that, where we broadened our definition of wellness. But I think that at its core is like so fun about these platforms. And Facebook is now like kind of for the boomers, but marketplace, and Substack is now like, I'm curious how you feel about that one specifically, because it was feeling like blogging, but now it just kind of feels like Instagram. So is there any, just tell me what you feel about that.
I love Substack. I love the people that I've met who worked there. I got to, do some fun things with them, but like between us and our listeners, I think it's Blogspot.
Yeah.
It's glorified Blogspot, and that's fine. But, like, that's what it is. That's what the platform is.
Right.
And,
right.
like, I think that they need to evolve the business model, because I just think that where people are at the moment, people are very selective where they're putting their funds because of where we are and where the economy is right now. There's a lot of things that people are like trimming the fat a lot. And what I would like to see from Substack is some sort of like universal subscription that then gives access to, you get to pick like one that you want to subscribe to a month. And I don't know how that would work on Substack's end, but I'm just thinking from like a user standpoint, like as a reader, not as somebody who has a Substack, which I have, and I'll talk about that in a second. But I think like the user experience, I think people, and there's so many great Substacks and people who do really well through the subscriptions, but I just don't know how sustainable that is at this moment. I also think that there's like some weird energy on there. Popularity, like it's doing the Instagram thing in a way that I think that could have been avoidable, and I wish they wouldn't have gone in that direction. But like that's fine too. They can do whatever they want. But like for me, it doesn't feel like that fun to like dance around in. That being said, back when I was doing That's So Retrograde, I would put on our website notes of like, we mentioned this product, and like do that for every episode.
Yeah, me too.
And aggregate like all the promo codes that we had. And Substack's been a really amazing tool as a sister piece of content for Too Niche, especially because, as you mentioned, like we are so rec focused, and I do love to like get into a niche, somebody who has a specialty, and like what's everything you recommend. So Substack has given me an opportunity to really have a place for that to live, letting me send it to people's inboxes if they want to receive the new episode that way. They want all the links. And for me, I used to have everything available to everyone, and then like a month later, it would go behind a paywall. I got rid of that. Like, I'm not interested in the subscriptions. I'd much like as like a business choice, I'd much rather have, like, I did a wedding mini series that was sort of like anti-wedding industrial complex when I got married. Thank you. Yeah, and like I'd much rather somebody be able to go see like all the links that I provided for that when they find, because I mean, to me, that's like a standalone piece, 6-episode concept that like I want people to be able to find whenever. I'd much rather have somebody go like click on what was being talked about. Like, I don't need to gatekeep anything, like listen to it and reference what I was talking about. So I moved everything in front of the paywall, and I was so happy with that decision. But like, of course, Substack's they're gonna be like, why aren't you charging?
Right.
Like they're pushing all of us to charge, which is totally fine if that works for you, but that's just not what works for me.
Yeah, I've really struggled with that too. I mean, I have like a few paid subscribers, mostly just my friends who are being nice. And so I don't feel that bad about not like really giving them content, because sometimes I'm like, if I'm going to write this thing that I spent so much time on, I don't want to write it just for these 4 people that I like go to dinner with, And to your point about the wedding thing, I think that's such a good point. That's the best part of the internet is when I research something and what comes up is a post from 7 years ago. And that might be how I discover someone. And then I start listening to their podcast or watching their YouTube channel, or I go to their show, or I don't know. That's kind of the beauty of the internet, the discoverability of things from all sorts of years. And some things are evergreen or current, or you want something that isn't current even.
That's right.
So yeah, I think that that's such a good point. And yeah, I mean, I could talk about the inside baseball, this part of things forever with you, because I think it's so interesting to hear your take on all of it. But I guess to broaden it out a little bit, like that book that I mentioned,
Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yes.
Yeah.
By Franklin Covey?
Covey, yeah.
I spent so much time. I don't know if this is something we share from our stint in the Midwest as children, but my mom was really addicted to the Franklin Planner, which I believe that guy came up with. Yeah. And I spent so much time in those stores as a child with her, getting her a planner for the year. Maybe that's why I have a fondness to it. But similar to that book and The Artist Way, are there any, I think The Artist Way lends itself to comebacks in such an obvious way that we spoke about, but are there any texts or tools that have been formative in your life as someone, who's spoken to so many experts over the years? Anything that stays with you in times of transition?
Oh my gosh. I think like for me, this is a silly answer, but what really soothes me is like old Real Housewives.
I love it.
Like that to me, like it brings me to a place of peace. Wherever I am, there they are.
Yes.
It's just like it soothes my soul in a way that brings comfort and has like held my hand through points in my life. And then I have this really strange anomaly in my life that like I have this thing where I did a dopamine menu episode one time where we named like all the things that like help bring dopamine into our life. And my last thing, and this still stays true, is that like any Bravo celebrity encounter, because I like strangely have them, I think, more than the average bear.
So what does that mean?
Like I'll encounter a housewife.
Oh,
or,
wow. That's so
just
cool.
like really weird instances happen. And I take it as a sign that I'm on the right track. And it's really, it's so silly to say out loud, but like that's sort of my like shining North Star.
I love it.
That anytime I like encounter a housewife or someone who's like Bravo adjacent, I'm like, okay, it's my synchronicity. It's like my synchronicity on like on a beautiful like opalescent experience.
Your soul mountain you're climbing your soul mountain when you see
my soul mountain has like Phaedra from Real Housewives of Atlanta, like on the way up.
Wow. That's incredible. That is the coolest wink from the universe. Some people see repeating numbers. Some people get a sign. This is the coolest one I've ever heard in my life.
I also have repeating numbers, but they're in tandem with, getting to... Yeah. So like my content is... And like just the thing that I hold dear is, that like, really mindless consumption of reality TV, specific reality TV.
It's so interesting. So my mom is much like you, also is friends with the housewives. And I remember actually when you were on Andy's show, like my mom she was like, this is your friend, she was like so excited, and as was I. But I've never seen it before until like now that it's your sign. I'm like, it's time. But
okay, you should start with Real Housewives of New York.
Okay. Yeah,
and you gotta just power through the first season because it doesn't really get good until the second, but you need it for establishing.
Okay, great.
And it's also a time capsule at this point because it came out many years ago. It's history. It's her story.
I'm stoked, but it's just interesting because I would see my mom do this as like she would always say like, I just got to decompress. And now like mine, it's about to be Housewives, but it hasn't been. It's been like, but my version of that. And my decomp time is anything that just calms you down and you like want to turn to and want to do is more valuable, I've realized, than any sort of self-help expert thing that I could ever come to, because ultimately, and I'm curious if you feel this way, but I've really realized that I can kind of handle anything. I can kind of figure anything out if I can get myself to calm. like to calm down or to just like regulate. I can figure out who to ask. I'll land on my feet. I'll get to the, what we were talking about at the beginning of the one foot in front of the other, roll up my sleeves. I can handle it. But if I can't calm myself down, I'm just going to be spinning out, and no tool or process or planner or book is going to be able to help me. So it's actually the most important thing to do whatever frivolous seeming thing to you that can get you to calm down. You'll be able to figure it out. So that
That's
really
right.
makes sense to me.
Deep breaths and Vanderpump Rules,
Yes. Yes, I'm really excited for
Excited for you too. I kind of want you to start on Vanderpump Rules almost.
Okay. All right. Well, think about it.
Yeah. I don't know. My prescription. And then there's
Okay.
Beverly Hills. I don't know. There's a lot of ways to go.
Wow. All right. Well, you got to come back to me with a definitive step one. And maybe that's your next thing, the Housewife's Way.
Primer.
The Housewife's Way. Yeah.
Much more in my zone of excellence with that, for sure.
Well, you're very much in your zone of excellence with artist. I can only imagine. Well, okay. So speaking of Artist's Way, like I was saying, it's such a compliment to what I'm focusing in on in this series. There are so many potent tools, and you've mentioned a couple of the classics already. And I heard you say another quote from it, which I love so much. Ideas don't get opening nights, finished plays do. Can you talk us through that line a little bit and how you approach working with people who have a lot of ideas, but not as many finished plays, so to speak?
Right. I mean, doesn't that line just give you a gut punch?
Yeah, it does.
It kind of knocks my socks off every time I read it because it's
really
so real. Because especially in this era, the internet that's brought us, a lens into what other people are doing, it can trip us up so much. And I find that, obviously to cite another aspect of the book is that they talk about the jealousy map, right? And how it's such a valuable tool to clock when we're feeling jealousy and what we see in someone else, and what's that thing, identifying what that thing is, and then finding an action anecdote from that thing of that person, the way that, I felt it the other day. I walked into my friend's new place. She had so much square footage in her and her husband's new place. And I was like, oh my God, I am seething right now. And I was like, okay, you know what? I went home, I talked to my husband. I was like, I really was feeling so jealous, and I'm feeling like we might have outgrown our space where we are now, because it hit me so deeply, right? So to bring it back to the finished plays, right? We then see someone's opening night and we're like, what the fuck, right?
Yeah.
But is your screenplay done? Is the script finished?
Right.
You can't really, they finished it. That's how they got that, right? And it might not always look like what that other person has. Hopefully it doesn't. But what we need to be brought to is that action point. And that speaks to that one foot in front of the other. That speaks to putting something down, having a process, having a daily quota, a weekly quota in how we show up for ourselves, because otherwise we're just in the corner seething, right?
Yeah, completely. And I think it speaks to another one where she says something about your job is not consistency. Your job is quantity, and the universe's job is quality.
Right. And now I go ahead, sorry.
No, please go.
I was just saying I love that line, and how I digest that is so often we have an idea, right? And then we're like, go to how, let's say you have a new podcast idea and you're like, great. But all of a sudden you're like, but how am I going to get sponsors for that? Or something you haven't even put down the first episode. You haven't even made the outline or thought of the title yet. You haven't gotten the equipment yet. It's okay. We don't need to worry about the sponsorships. That's not even, in this world yet. So what do you need to do first? Find a mic, set a time to record, put together an outline, find someone to edit, learn how to edit. It's like there's so many things that happen, but our mind just so naturally goes to step 35.
Yeah.
So, that's what I think of when it's like we just need to do it. Like it's not our job to worry about it if it's good. What happens if it sucks? What happens if it thrives? Like, whoa. We just need to turn the mic on.
Completely. That's so true. And also hitting me hard because I think my best friend is kind of naturally in that mindset, can kind of think big picture while also thinking about the small steps, where I have this bad habit tendency that I really have to have one side of my brain instruct the other, which is I'll give up easy if I start thinking about step 35 that I don't know the answer to and is maybe challenging and I don't have information that I might need to be able to figure that one out. So I just won't even want to do step 1 through 35. And I need to almost not even think about. Some people can see step 35 and be like, all right, I'll handle that when I get there and just press on. But I need to kind of really put blinders on to the future steps. And the way you articulated that really, really helped me with that. It's kind of key to just not crumbling. I think much like I was saying with getting to calm, but it's a lot easier to come back from stopping and starting than crumbling, when you can't do something. So give yourself a win and just try step 1 or 2, even though you don't know the further steps. There's a saying in the 12 steps that's very similar to this too, where they say it's your job to, do the work, but the outcome or the response is not your responsibility and not even in your wheelhouse. And I find that very comforting too. And I guess it even speaks to the sliding doors thing of what is meant for you won't pass you. You just have to put one foot in front of the other, which I think is really what Club Artist Way does with people, is it gives them support in doing that and doing something that gives them running buddies or walking buddies to put one foot in front of the other. Can you talk about what the community aspect has added to the process?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that hit me so hard when doing the Artist Way the first time was there were words put to feelings that I thought that I was the only one who'd ever experienced. I was like, oh, that's how I feel. And I've never heard it contextualized like that. And whoa, other people feel this too. That's crazy. But I think what is so special about doing the process as a group and showing up on a weekly basis for yourself and each other is everybody's coming from different life experiences, different phases in their life, different professions, you name it. Everybody's on their own path, but they're connecting on the same material in a way that feels so universal. So it actually makes a process that's super transformative actually really fun. And when you feel seen, we all know what that can do for our confidence and what that can do for healing. So it creates this container where all of that sort of happens in this recipe of this proven process. But people are just so lovely. I've been very, very, very lucky in that everybody who comes to it with enthusiasm and shows up for not only themselves but other people, and that's a really beautiful thing to witness. And on the last day, usually everybody cries, which I know I've done my job.
Yeah.
I get emotional, but everybody else does too. And I'm I joke that I'm okay, that was a success. Everybody cried, but really, there's such beautiful depth of work that occurs within the 13 weeks. It's 12 weeks, but I do an intro session at the top that kind of explains the run of show. So within these 13 weeks, people really experience a metamorphosis. And it's so amazing to do that in a community, in a container with people from all different, modes of life coming together and connecting on this like one thing. And like to your point on like the AA, it's a lot of like the similar themes in AA. Julia Cameron talks about how she's in the program as well. There's so many similar themes. There's a lot of God talk in The Artist's Way. There's a lot of just like universal themes that apply, that have been taught, in different sectors and with a different lens. But like this lens is through creativity, and like that, I'm like, I can get down with that forever.
Yeah, because, I know we both like subscribe to this concept of, I think Brene Brown said, unused creativity is not benign. Like it really festers, and it's something that I know I'm more pleasant to be around if I've touched something creative. It's why, like, I used to lead this group that started in the pandemic called Creative Underdogs about this. And we had people who, someone was like opening a coffee shop. Somebody else was like worked for a beer company. And we would do a party at the end of the 3 months. And this was on Zoom, but same thing, like buckets of tears. And there's a real magic to like the group. That's God to me, is, the Before Sunrise quote of like the place between you and me, the connection part.
Favorite movie.
Yeah, same. But I really think that I also think like separate about that movie, I feel like the reason it's kind of the original podcast, to people walking and talking and having a conversation.
I love that. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that and My Dinner with Andre, I think that's why I like them so much. But anyway, there are so many things about The Artist's Way that lend itself to be able to talk about in the moment. And I just think it's incredible that you're giving them a container. And it's such a reflection of you that all the people are so great, because obviously like attracts like. And I think similarly, like we're craving that connection probably because, to what you said earlier about social media, it's no longer giving us that. It's giving us another thing, but it's not feeling like a small part of the internet where you're able to connect with people really anymore. And I'd love to talk a little bit more about where you see the future in terms of, well, I guess I'll frame it this way, because you do see things ahead of time and have been ahead of the game in so many ways, with both podcasting, with wellness, and probably many other places I don't even know. But do you ever get like, oh man, I knew that band before you? Like, do you get like that about things that you're ahead of? Or are you just kind of like over it and on to the next thing already?
It kind of depends like where my headspace is that day. I think my like natural mode is to be like, cool. Like I add it to the scoreboard of like another thing that I was, 10 steps ahead of. Like I also have like one of my best friends is literally like 10 years ahead. So like I have people in my life who are me on like a whole other level. So I don't even see myself as, I do know, like I have a track record of catchy, like seeing things, being able to sort of predict where things are going. I'll take that. But for the most part, I'm just sort of like, it kind of like gives me a little like, it's positive. Yeah. There are times where I'm like, damn, like that person really monetized an idea that I didn't monetize in the way that I could have. There's like those little moments, but I don't live in that headspace because that's not helpful of anything. I just sort of like congratulate myself and keep it moving.
Yeah, that's the way to do it for sure. Where do you see it going now? What would you say to someone who isn't as good at keeping it moving? How would you suggest someone not starting something new, but someone who started something on a different internet, the internet of 10 years ago, 5 years ago even, who's feeling stuck now, maybe where you were pre-Tuniche and pre The Artist's Way? What would you say to them if you were instructing them on how to evolve now?
I think you've got to, I've talked a lot about keeping it moving and one foot in the front of the other. I think it's really important to have some quiet. First, find your footing in the quiet. And even that's like as simple as like a 5-minute meditation practice, like nothing crazy. Obviously, I'm going to say, and I know you're the OG of this, but like getting out a journal, and then I think, I lead these mood board workshops that I find to be very effective. And I really teach them with the intention of have this tool in your toolbox, because I think it can be like, once you get quiet, once you're able to sort of like get in touch, I think having a visualization of what you would like to have occur, or being able to plot out an idea visually, or just like reach for the stars of like, this would be fucking amazing if this could happen. And I have no idea how it would, but like, let me just like put it pen to paper with it. Having some sort of visualization practice where you can just sort of like get everything that's up here and in here like out, so you can reference it and make tweaks to it and allow it to, breathe and evolve. That would be my big thing. Getting quiet, getting clear, and then like getting it out. Huh? Letting it out, like really, and then starting there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And seeing what that
so
says
good.
to you.
Yeah. I need to do that. I need
to have you in my, like, please come, my treat. Please come to my next. I do them seasonally.
Oh, amazing. Okay. I'm
And
so
they're online, and they're lovely. I just
so
did one
excited.
for myself. I think, when did we, the 8/8 portal.
Right,
I was
right.
like,
Oh,
gotta
I wish
sit
I
with
would've done-
this.
Yeah.
And I just did, like, ran myself through the exact process that I teach. And I was like, oh, this is good. I'm into this.
Oh,
And then
good. So
we
stoked.
make a digital mood board. So the intention is that it goes on the wallpaper of your desktop or on your phone. I can show you mine.
Oh, amazing.
And, oh shoot, it went away. But so that you're just like in concert with it.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, our faces are in front of these screens. So if we can see these images, then like it really does something. Really does something.
I think it's so important because I'm so in my head often, and that's why journaling helps me so much, dump it out. But or morning pages, the artist way, and talking things out with people. I'm a verbal processor. I talk a lot. The visual piece of it, sometimes I can't see it. I'll know what it feels like, but it's something that kind of comes later for me. I can definitely know what it's not, but to know what it is takes me a second. And a friend was helping me plot out how I would do a new project, and we were doing the exact thing we were talking about earlier. If step 35 was very overwhelming to me, and I was like, well, what is even step 1? And she was like, we need to figure out what it's going to look like visually, the logo and all of the many elements of that. And I was kind of like, you sure? Like, I'm pretty sure I need to just take action. And she was really adamant about it being the opposite, because she was like, I think it will actually help you because unsurprisingly, I have a lot of unfinished plays and a lot of ideas, and she's trying to get me over that hump, and having that pressure of like, okay, now I can see it all. There's something I think about, and maybe just like underlining your point that you just made of seeing it visually, and the quiet it takes to do that maybe will then get me to be able to one foot in front of the other a little easier, because I know where I'm walking towards.
I had friends of mine who'd been in my groups before, and they actually became close in one of my groups, and they're starting a business together.
Oh my God. And that's so cool.
One of them put together a logo like immediately, but was having cold feet with the other stuff. And I was like, you already have the logo dialed. Like, you're good to go. Like, get the permits and fly. Like you have the
Yeah.
hardest part. You have the perfect logo to like set the tone for everything you guys are creating. So like to me, the hard part's over.
Yeah, completely. And I think there really is something about, and I think having the logo kind of does this when you are doing, and you've had the experience with both, which I think it would be really interesting to hear. I've never had a co-host. I did another podcast with a co-host, but for the most part, this has been entirely me. And when you have a logo or you have this thing that you're excited about, when you are inevitably down, it can kind of boost you up. And another duo podcast, I was speaking at the same thing as them years ago, and their assistant was asked about why are they successful. And she said the reason they're successful is because when one of them's down, the other one can always pick them up and they don't stay down there. And I remember just thinking like, well, shit, like it's just me, which was maybe like a defeatist way to think about that. But I think you have to do those things for yourself. We all do. And that might be an external thing of accountability externally, like a group or having a logo or investing in something. Because without that, when you're inevitably down, it's so easier than ever now to just stay down there and distract yourself with all sorts of things. So was that sort of having done both, I'm curious if that is your experience and how do you motivate yourself, I guess, when you are starting to go down?
Stick to the plan.
Mm.
That is like a big one. I'm a big like notes in my phone, checklist type of person.
Yeah.
And I was actually saying to my dad recently, I'm like, when you work for yourself, you have to stick to the plan. And that doesn't mean that I would say it's like 87% of the time you stick to it. There, you can have that 13% wiggle room of like, I don't have it in me. I can't do this today. Or like plot twist, we're going to do it a different way. But you just have to set an intention for what you're going to do and follow through with it. That's the only way. It's the only way to keep it moving.
Wow. Okay. This is like life-changing of an episode for me personally. I'm like, okay, these are all things that I've kind of done before, but have fallen off of, or, I think moving to LA, it really changed my routine because I sort of felt like, oh, nobody really works here and everyone's just kind of hanging out during the day. And I used to really stick to the plan and it felt sort of uncool to work. And I was like, well, I don't really have to. And then I didn't. And now I'm like, oh, shoot. It's very easy to be swayed from the plan regardless of where you live. Not that it's LA, but
it's so easy. I mean, showing up for yourself is kind of one of the hardest things. And that's another thing that really was instilled with me from doing the artist way.
Yeah.
Like not to keep bringing it back there, but to bring it back there, that's the whole point of the artist date. That's why you're doing it by yourself. It's because it's teaching you to be out of your comfort zone because it wants you to try something new. And it wants you to do it by yourself because we actually, as humans, it's like very easy for us to break plans with ourselves more so than it is for like any of our loved ones, right? Like if I make a plan with you, I'm going to show up. Or if I can't make it, it's going to be like this whole like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Really? Can we reschedule? Like I'll be sure to reschedule it and I'll be sure to show up the next time. It's not like that with ourselves.
Right.
Like it's like I became far too comfortable breaking plans with myself. Right. So that artist state shifts that programming. And that's what's so great about it. And also it's just like do something that sounds fun for an hour once a week by yourself. Yeah. But like that's actually one of the things that people have a really hard time making the space for. And like it feels like foreign. Should be like, okay, wait, I'm supposed to wait. What? What do I do? Do something that nurtures my creativity for an hour solo? I don't have the time for that.
Right.
It's like, no, but we do. We just are trained not to prioritize ourselves in that way.
Yeah.
So we're like reprogramming.
Yeah.
But then when we get into that pattern with ourselves where it now doesn't feel like a foreign concept to show up for ourselves, then then that's when you can start doing that 87%, for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, completely. And I think you said you sometimes help people when they have trouble sticking to that, to do it with another person for a few until they can kind of find their footing. And I thought that was so brilliant. And yeah, I think that is so true about something I'm really working on in my life right now. That's kind of at an inflection point for me is people pleasing and trying to not, you know, be a doormat and
and just trying to not.
Yeah, exactly. And realizing like how the heaviness of like, oh man, this is actually quite selfish behavior. And this is that, and really looking at all of that and that pattern, it's a deep groove in me, like so many, and anyway, I've found that canceling plans is so challenging for me that I much too often just end up going and overdoing it and overextending myself because the idea of canceling on feels like an arduous process. It's easier to just go and overextend myself. And what makes it a lot easier to cancel plans when I need to or move something, not overextend myself, is to know what I'm saying yes to, because it's much easier to say no when you have a clear, like, this is actually what I want to do. This is actually what will bring me joy or calm me down. But when that's a bit foggy or unclear, it's just so much easier to just swing at the balls coming at me and just go to things, because then I won't have to sit with the fact that I don't actually know what I want to do. So it's like the clarity and then the self-trust of doing it. And then it makes it kind of, I think, was what's about to cure my people pleasing.
Love that.
I hope. But okay, lastly, you said somewhere too that the next wellness, you've been so ahead of wellness too. The next frontier is creative wellness. Can you give your definition of that and talk about some of the ways that looks like in your life now?
Yeah. So I think like Trend Watch is creative wellness. And the reason why I think that is because the internet. The internet has done a few things. One thing that's like kind of great around modern technology is it's freed up a lot of time. For instance, like us getting to record this podcast, we're doing it virtually. I don't have to get in the car. You don't have to get in the car. We're just able to hop on, right? That like probably shaved off an hour. We now have this hour.
Yeah, a day, because we'd be like, oh, well, I have to go in more than an hour.
Exactly, right? So it's like we now have all these shortcuts, especially now more than ever. Like AI, to, the point earlier, like the way we're able to access information now is beyond. Like it's in a whole new stratosphere. Things we're being able, like even just like gathering, if I, how I use technology to like prepare or edit my podcast or all of these things, like time has been given more to us. I don't know about you, but for me, I found myself with that time, my head was in my phone. I'm like doing like triple neck scrolling and it's like, wait, what? Like, no, I want to take this newly found time that I get and like actually use it to nurture myself and like have it be additive to my life. So I think it's going to be really important that we have these steadfast practices that are in place so we're not like taken by the scroll. That we're able to now like find some positive in this technological hellscape that we're in and like be like, okay, great. Like it's actually making my life easier. I'm going to look at it through that lens. Now I'm going to do things IRL, nurturing myself, exploring my interests, finding things that delight me, new hobbies, new connections with people, all of this that support me. And that to me is what creative wellness is. It is all of the practices that we have in place to nurture our creativity, because that's the only thing that's going to save us. Like we're in a really tough time politically, economically, just there's so much changing so quickly. It's like the only thing that's going to ground us and move us through into like a more positive utopia that I believe we can find is through creativity.
Yeah. How do you use AI in your life and work? Like I remember you had a color analysis that you like used it for and you posted a while
Mm-hmm.
ago, which I also tried. Like there can be some creative ways
Yeah,
to
you
use
can
it.
do
And I'm
some fun
curious.
things. I mean, how I use it in business, like, you know this so well. I mean, it is running, having a podcast, having a business, having multiple businesses, having multiple arms of the things that I do. It's for me, it's just shaved off time. So I'll give you an example. I mentioned the Too Niche mood board, right? Like, which is the sister piece of content to Too Niche, which provides like a copious amount of, like, an exhausting amount of links of like anything that's mentioned in the show. So I used to listen to the episode 3 times to pull everything. And it was like, oh my God, I mean, you know how hard it is to listen to your voice, like when you're editing, like all of this, it's like, like it is not my favorite, and it's like, so one thing that AI has allowed for me to do is I can connect to Script, which is an editing platform that I know you use as well.
Sorry.
And I can run the transcript through the Descript plugin with my AI, and I'll ask it to pull any product mentioned. So then I can go through and pull the links and all of this. And then when I listen to it, I add more things in, like things that it inevitably is going to miss. But it shaves off a good 2 hours of a process, a multi-step process of recording, editing, producing, publishing, writing, disseminating the newsletter. It's like there's I made it not easy for myself. And so like that's just one of the ways that for me AI has been so helpful.
Yeah, I still am kind of like can't believe that the transcript alone is like so helpful of just having that
Yeah.
available of a podcast
And I'm
is
not ashamed of it because you know what? That gives me more time to do things that
completely.
are like actually of value. Like it's not like I feel grateful that I'm like, okay, I don't need to listen to this episode an extra 2 times. No. Like I don't want to do
Completely.
that. That's not a valuable use of my time.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. So well said. Okay, cool. I could just talk to you forever. This is like so fun and I'm so grateful. I have a couple rapid fires that have to do with comebacks.
Great. Love.
Okay. What's a comeback era essential, before not yet to the next thing, but no longer to the last thing? Is there like a playlist or a person you turn to or a place you go or anything that comes to mind?
I was going to say just a trusted confidant. Like
Yeah.
just having somebody who is in your corner, who is a cheerleader for you, that isn't going to bullshit you, but you can like really express without judgment.
Well, that's huge. Did you feel like you had that in the
I
midst of
am
your?
I am so rich in trusted confidence. Like it
Mhm.
is such a gift. It's like there's an exercise in the artist way that's like write down the people who support your creativity. I have a gorgeous list, and it's like one of the things I'm most grateful for.
That's so good. Yeah, I feel like that's so key. It's so true. What's something that you completely had to stop doing in order to come back?
Completely had to stop doing. For me, I don't drink alcohol. It's just nothing. It's just, and I used to be like a party girl. Like I was a girl about town, and I never would have ever thought that alcohol wasn't an issue for me in a way. Like it wasn't like a have to stop drinking because I'm making these decisions, but it like very clearly wasn't something that was additive to my life. And I found that like I really only, but it was a hindering, it was like,
Yeah.
I noticed I would be like, okay, if I go out tonight, then I'm going to need the morning to recover. And then I'm not going to be able to, I started making these sort of like 3-day maps if I was going to have a drink. And I was like, there's no room for thriving in these mapped out scenarios. Like no matter what, it's going to just like put me at a deficit. So that was something that I stopped a few years ago, and I don't miss it one bit.
Yeah. What's something that you do actually miss from being in the in-between space? And on the other end of that, what's something that you never want to experience again?
Well, I think what's kind of fun when you're in an in-between space is like really not knowing. When I stopped doing my previous podcast, That's So Retrograde, I had a bit of like a runway where I could take some time. And that's when I started leading the groups just for fun. But there was like I was in a place of like zero attachment to outcome and with like no plan. And it was so delightful to look back on. Like, it was just like clear soil
Yeah.
that I was planting seeds that I didn't even know would blossom. So that was like pretty great.
I think that I meant to say this earlier. I think that's so genius about like taking time and space between something and getting quiet like you did with that runway. And it's something that I'm really craving doing for myself now. But if I think back to like when I started, period, like you were doing nothing before, I think anytime you just don't think about it because you have already done it. But anybody who does anything, like to go from one thing to the next, I think there's really something into a clear stop and start that hasn't really come up on these episodes before, but I think is really valuable to being able to come back.
Yeah,
So
there's a phrase that I love that, unfortunately, it's from Bethany Frankel.
I'm great. I love her.
The great philosopher Bethany Frankel once said, "You can't make an entrance without making an exit."
Oh, brilliant.
Right?
Brilliant.
It like gives so much permission. It's like, you know what?
Wow.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I need to make some exits. It's so good. Finish the sentence. I knew I was on the other side when.
When I felt excited about what was next.
Yeah, that's so good.
And like waking up and being like, I know all too well that feeling when you wake up and it feels so heavy, you know? And waking up and not feeling that heaviness.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very inspiring. What's a comeback that comes to mind, if it can be someone you know personally or like a well-known one like Michael Jordan, that is there any comeback that you have of someone in culture or that that is inspiring to you?
Well, I would be remiss not to. It's the summer of Madonna.
Yeah,
and the Confessions album, and I'm a huge Madonna fan since I came into consciousness. I've just been so enamored with her, such a fan of her music. Just like, I'm such a pop girly. Like, I just love pop music so much. And I was really excited about this new album just because I was like, how cool that we get a Madonna album at this phase in life. Like, I'm so excited, right? I did a whole episode about like my love for Madonna. It was just like a love letter. And then the album comes out and it's like one of her best pieces of work that she's ever put out. Like top 3 for sure, without question. And that's just been so inspiring to me that it came out when she was 67. She just turned 68. At this phase in the game, like, she's putting out some of her, most comprehensive, well-produced, enjoyable music. And that's so inspiring because the thing is she's still been putting out albums, but none of them are like, it's just like the right moment, the right production, the right sort of like, I think like what culture's needed is like this amazing dance album that's like just inarguably so well done. And I'm just so excited that it's this good. And that the whole thing is like, you got to keep doing it. Like, not everything's going to be Ray of Light, right? And the other stuff that she's put out in previous years, like, it's been an expression of creativity and art, So to just keep doing it, to then like get to your confessions too. Like we all have this, and I think even she is surprised at the reception of it. Somebody who's classically so confident and so doesn't give a fuck. But like to see her be so appreciative that people are into what she's into now. Like I just think that there's so much wisdom to gain from watching her progression.
Completely. Yeah. Wow. It was just so inspiring to hear you frame it that way. Like I love stories like that. Other than Madonna, is there any comeback that you're rooting for in the world, or someone that you love, or just anything that you want to come back in style, or any sort of comeback?
What a good question. I would like Privacy to come back. I think that like being offline is pretty cool, and I run a pretty digital focused business, but like I think that like we know a little too much about everybody. I think it would be very nice if it just like the sharing just became like passé. I don't know how that's going to happen. I don't know if you could put the toothpaste back in the tube, but I think it's chic to have mystery.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God, it so is. I think it makes it really tricky, like dating, or just there's so many things that we all know a bit too much, or feel like you should share more, or you should have, it would be great to put the toothpaste back in there. Okay. What about like your next comeback? Is there anything that you think that you want to pivot towards now, or is there anything coming to mind that you're
Oh my gosh, I am so
about?
open to honestly anything. I truly feel like at this point, at 41 years old, I know what I like. I know where my skills are, and I would love to just have the opportunity to apply those wherever they can thrive.
Oh, I love that. Well, that's the real last question. This one's sort of a joke, but I feel like you are so funny that maybe you do have it. Do you have any comebacks, like the other kind of comeback, like the sharp, quick, I wish I'd said it in the moment sort of comeback?
I don't, but I recently happened upon a subreddit called Comebacks where people like share a scenario in their life and people give them comebacks for it. And there was one where somebody was like, I just thought this was so funny that someone they work with when they're back in the office, and ever since they went back in the office, somebody on their team asks them if they're sick every day. And so all these people were giving all these hilarious responses, and I was purely delighted. And so I don't personally have any comebacks, but I find great joy in reading other people's. I guess that's the takeaway from that anecdote.
I think I've been to that Reddit too. I didn't see that one, but it's an excellent corner of the internet.
It's a great little, very non-threatening corner of the internet.
Gosh, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for spending so much time and truly everything. This was so much fun. Is there anything else that you wish that I would have asked you that you never get to talk about, or that you
No, you're perfect. But one thing I would say that I don't think I touched on, but that I think is interesting, that is cool to pay attention to as we all evolve and do things. With leading the groups with Club Artist Way, and like whatever that's going to evolve into, because I'm totally open to that being, blossoming into not just using the book as the prime, text, right? But I think what kind of gave me that little push of, oh, I'm supposed to be doing this, like this feels really right, is doing a podcast. And I feel like you can speak to this so well. It's like you just want to give people a valuable hour, and you just want to leave people better than you found them. That was kind of always my thought process going into a recording. So when I was doing these groups before I fully formed it, but I was like, oh, my years of podcasting was just preparing me for this. Like, it's that, but through this new lens. So I think the takeaway from that is that, like, we're always being prepped, and we're always like sort of training for something wonderful that we might not even know where we're supposed to apply those skills. So like the comeback can be, you know, something that we're so prepared for and so ready for that we never even could have considered or seen.
That's so inspiring, and I think that's the best way to look at it. I think because the alternative way to look at it, and something that I've fallen into, is like, man, you did all of this work for something that's no longer working for you, so you have to start over from the bottom. And I think, the Soul Mountain, I think, speaks to that too, of what resources do I have here from what I already did that I can use moving forward, and I'll maybe need to acquire some more things too, but using what you've got is really helpful. And I'm so glad that you added that, and that's so true. And I'm so glad that that's been the case for you, and that you evolved into something so seamlessly.
Thank you.
It's
This
been
was
so
so
inspiring to
fun.
see.
Thank you so much for having me. What a joy.
Thank you. Yeah, it was so fun. And everyone, if you're not already subscribed to listen to Niche, the podcast, and get the Substack complement to it, and I'll see you at the next mood board thing, and maybe at the next Club Artist Way. But there's all the information, I'll have linked on my version of the Substack show notes. But
thank you.
Anyway, thank you so much. Okay, that was my talk with Elizabeth. I hope that you enjoyed listening as much as I enjoyed talking to her and getting a chance to reconnect with her. I'll talk to you next week. I'm really grateful that you listened all the way to the end. If you want to connect with me further, you know where to do that. Let It Out on Instagram, Let It Out with 3 T's. And my Substack, I've got one cooking for you. Been in the slow cooker. I'll say that, the slow cooker of my OCD type of changing a word, changing it back to what it was, and so on for weeks. I'll say it, months. It was June. Okay. Hopefully that makes it to your inbox soon, and I'll talk to you then. Bye-bye.